All right, what's going on, people? We are back.
You.
JV Wins Dogon SS here for another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, following along with us, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, joining us along for the ride. We certainly appreciate it as we continue to kick this logical content each and every week, each and every day. So, shouts out to all the folks that's been, hitting that button, leaving those comments, letting us know what you think about the videos. We certainly appreciate the engagement, especially when you tell us how we're crazy and we don't know what we're talking about. Those are my favorite kind of comments. Shouts out, I guess, to the Boston Celtics during the NBA Finals. I don't know what's going on. We'll see what happens with it going back to Dallas. I'm still hoping that Dallas does something, but the Celtics winning the championship to me is just gross.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's gross. But whatever. With that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. First up, we're going to talk about some interesting comments made about Ray J, who believes that his fun tape with Kim Kardashian, the infamous Kim Kardashian tape, altered the course of history in his eyes. Now, that's obviously a grandiose way to describe what he's feeling, but Ray J was recently on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe, and Shannon Sharpe asked him, does he regret making the tape? How does he think things, in what ways do he think, him being Ray J, that things would have been different had they not made the tape? And Ray J has some interesting thoughts on that. So this kind of made the mainstream as well as the internet airwaves, this particular interview. But ever since Cat Williams, pretty much any Club Shay Shay interview now is going to get talked about, at least to some respect. So Ray J feels like he played a part in kind of changing the way humanity operates when it comes to this kind of stuff, viral content, this, that, and the third. So interesting comments that we thought we would get into here on Conscious Approach. So this here says Ray J ponders whether a sex tape with Kim Kardashian altered the course of humanity. As the wisdom, the Holiday Reporter just shared in late May goes, anyone who wants their career or name to go viral must speak with former NFL player Shannon Sharpe on his podcast, Club Shay Shay. Well, it is happening again, this time with singer and one-time sex tape star Ray J, who took time to ponder the ripple effects of his sex tape with Kim Kardashian and wax philosophical about humanity. Ray J, who besides starring in the early to the sex tape game encounter with Kim Kardashian, filmed in 2003 and released in 2007, is a musician who is now touting a new single, Throwing Stacks. But the former topic got the 43-year-old father of two thinking about the impact of the famous sex tape dubbed Kim Kardashian Superstar, which ultimately made the Kardashian family a household name. So these are just quotes of what Ray J said, but we'll just scroll all the way down here and we'll play this snippet of Ray J talking about how he feels about that tape. So Shannon Sharpe starts this thing off by asking him how much different would his life be had he not done the tape, which includes his family life, so on and so forth.
How different is that family, or that family life?
I think more of the question is, how different would we all be? How different would this whole fucking thing be? How different would the industry be? How different would the wheel roll? Everything would be different. We would all be different. All of us. Everybody in here would be different. We'll have on different clothes.
What you mean?
Everything would be different, meaning like you would never ask me that question. Meaning if we sat here right now and we got to this point, what, like, I don't know, probably more people would be going to college and, you know what I'm saying, getting an education and be successful. There might not be any OnlyFans and other things like that, other opportunities like that. So, I mean, are we a part of the cure? Are we a part of the disease? I don't fucking know. All I know is I'm just trying to make it right.
Were you ever embarrassed when the tape came out?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, it's a long pause, ain't it?
got to say, bro?
Yeah. I have kids now, so when I have kids,
And
everything that we did now when I have kids is just totally different. The whole thing is wacky. Before I was just like, but with my kids, it's not okay. And so I can't, without me going too far into it, without me getting in trouble. Yeah, I mean, no, it's not okay now. But I'm 43 with a kid that's 4 and a kid that's 6. My daughter's 6, my son's 4. And even though you're young, and even in that young kid world, they'll all probably think it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Until you have kids.
Right.
Until you have kids. So he kind of went existential mode. Answering that, he feels like, how different would this whole thing be? Right. So he took it there. He went kind of grandiose with it. So what are your thoughts on what Ray J said? You know, obviously the course of his own personal life is different if he doesn't do it. But what do you make of his insinuation that tape was the start of a ripple effect for a lot of other things that we see going on nowadays?
As wacky as it sounds, man, I agree with him. You know, the butterfly effect of a lot of things. You know, it'd be real nice to see like the actual butterfly effect of certain monumental events that happen in history. Some would say, well, you consider this monumental? Well, socially, yeah, it was. And because before this tape, I didn't know who Kim Kardashian was. And it started her career for the most part. And what ended up happening, I know for one thing, I know you always credited her for being the spark to create a lot of this BBL, OnlyFans, reality TV culture, hell, even down to the accent type of stuff. So for him to say that we'll be wearing different clothes, I mean, it gets down to that point, you know, because let's say that, you know, these women aren't introduced to that. Now, I felt like there was already a curve coming when it came to sexual liberalism or something like that, where women were freeing the nipple kind of thing, or, you know, I felt like we were already going to get to that point at some point. It didn't have to go down this road though, down this channel. And a lot of the women took this channel to free themselves independently, and they took the Kardashian route. And the side effects of that, it has an effect on mating selection, dating. So the ramifications of this socially, I mean, then we got the advent of Insta thoughts, and we're going crazy online with models. A lot of this stuff happened after this stuff. So for him to go that deep, I feel like he had time to think about his ramifications over the years. And that's why he answered it with such a galaxy brain. And I would say, yeah, I agree. I didn't like the tape when it first came out. I thought that was bad for the culture in general. Just the fact that, people are supporting this type of stuff in the first place. I remember, like it was yesterday, bro, as far as like the media storm it created. And I wasn't down for that then. And it never stopped. It just basically, like I'm saying, like if there was like a cesspool of garbage, which the industry is, it was going down one channel, but this introduced a new channel where it created a whole new river flowway of garbage. So yeah, I agree with him. That branch that branched off with that sludge created its own subdivision of sludge. So yeah, man, I guess in hindsight he can see what he actually introduced to the game, for a check. And so yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some remorse about that now, but it is what it is. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Ray J going galaxy brain, saying that this tape, yeah, hey, honestly, bro, it's got us talking now. You know, so it's changing the course of history. What are your thoughts, man?
I think that there's legs to what he has to say. I'm not going to hold that tape solely responsible because we've talked via various topics before about how, generally speaking, if you do any sort of research on other societies historically, there is a general descent into decadence before that society crumples under the weight of itself. That is a historical thing that was going on in biblical times. It was going on with all ancient civilizations, all after common era civilizations, Romans, Greeks, Macedonians, Carpathians, you name it. Like, this is not something that I'm making up. This is something that happens throughout history with humanity. When you reach the height of civilization, there's a peak, and then after the peak, there's a gradual descent into decadence, and then and then there's a reset. So I think our society is currently in the slow process of the descent into decadence before ultimately there needs to be a reset. In the midst of that descent into decadence, you have certain catalysts which help move that descent along. And I do think that stuff like that tape was a small catalyst. I do think that. So I don't think that what he's saying is completely out of bounds. I'm not going to go as far as saying that it's the reason why people dress differently or do certain things differently, or less people are going to college versus starting OnlyFans, right? He mentioned that stuff. I do think that those are ramifications, but I'm not going to hold that tape solely responsible. I just think it was a catalyst, but it did play a role, man. That tape came out in 2007, right? Their TV show, the Kardashian reality show, I just looked this up, started in 2007.
Yeah, it was pub for it.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is because instances like that tape created what you and I characterize as the normalization of deviant behavior, to the point where society, entertainment industry, social liberalism, even certain aspects of the political world are making a concerted effort to impress upon people that this kind of behavior is okay because you're embracing yourself, you're being comfortable with who you are, and there's no shame, there's no scarlet letter attached to it, right? Like, there's no apprehensiveness associated with getting involved with such things because, hey, it is what it is. It's all to the good. It's normal, especially when you can make money. We're in, this is capitalism, baby. So get to your bag, as they like to say. So as more and more of these things become normalized, then it's no big deal to see more and more people opting for these kinds of things, because if there's no need for me to feel embarrassed about doing it, and it helps me to not feel embarrassed by it, because there was a person who kind of spearheaded this, who established a precedent that moving forward, you can do this as a realistic proposition without feeling some sort of shame from it, then it's also something that I can do as well. And the more and more you get people adopting that kind of mindset, the more normalized it becomes, to the point where we're so desensitized to it that it's just an everyday thing. It's no big deal. It's why I often speculate that we are getting to a point where we're literally starting to look at sex work as just working, right? Like punching in, punching out, going to work, doing my thing, instead of going to serve drinks at a bar, or instead of going to be a waitress, or instead of going to work at a store, retail, or something like this, they're turning on the camera and they flicking on the lights and they doing OnlyFans
and serving up the throat.
Yeah, because why not? Like, it's work. Like, there is a desensitization to this stuff that is going on that's so pervasive that the underlying intent behind it is to not view it as a shameful act or something that needs to be handled discreetly, but to be boisterous about it, happy and proud, because this is what I do and it's cool and I'm getting to my bag. And that's just kind of the wave of the way the world, that's kind of the way things are going. And so I think that tape served as a catalyst. It wasn't solely responsible for the degradation. The degradation had already began. I think the tape was merely a catalyst for the degradation, and the timing was perfect. I mean, the tape comes out in 2007. The TV show starts in 2007. Less than 3 years later, you get Instagram. Like you said before, I credit Kim Kardashian with the modern day influencer culture. Like
Yeah,
I feel like she's the mother of that.
right.
Like I feel like she gave birth to it. Like so many of these women, they kind of copied her look, copied her hairstyle, you know. They kind of took cues from her behavior. All of these chicks who want to be influencers, which is basically just a fancy internet way of saying I'm leveraging my body for attention and money, like they all started to copy what she looks like, the long dark hair in various styles. Some of them started to try to get their skin tone to be tan the way hers is, wear the kind of clothes that she wears, and of course try to get the same kind of body type that she has. So yeah, a lot of this was a perfect storm for a lot of insinuating circumstances taking place at the same time, which contributed to what Ray J is describing when he's talking about would more people be going to college instead of doing OnlyFans. I agree with him from that standpoint. I think it was a catalyst. It wasn't completely responsible, but it did play a role for sure.
Yeah, it played a role, and I think that's all he was trying to get at, is that it had its ramifications deeper than his life and just Kim Kardashian's life, basically. And it did influence some people the wrong way. There were some young ladies that were watching that and became a fan of Kim and took their life in a different direction. So because they got exposed to her and the way she talked and the lifestyle she tried to promote and all that other good stuff. So yeah, it had an impact on people's lives. So was it I mean, and honestly, bro, just like how you mentioned, man, if you just want to give her credit for just at least sparking the minds of these influencer women, how many influencer women that were influenced by her influenced other women? So, the ripple effect or butterfly effect to these types of things, man, you shouldn't be taken lightly. And, one thing about Ray J, he's going to talk about himself in a grandiose kind of way. He'll make anything sound like it was, revolutionary. Just ask him about his scooty bikes. Okay. But at the same time, he does have a point on this one. Because I told you, man, when that thing happened at that time, because I was fully sentient, I was aware of what was happening, and I was disliking stuff then. And when that stuff went down, I was like, this is bad for the culture. I don't like this, especially once I saw how much wings it was growing, like how people was actually bigging this up, and I'm like, how is this even a thing? But nevertheless, we got there, and it's had its effect. And honestly, there's certain topics that we talk about on a weekly basis that if some of these seeds weren't planted, some of these people wouldn't be here. And so, and as you mentioned, yeah, man, bang, bang. Because that was another thing too. I was like, okay, who's this Kim Kardashian woman? And then, this is when it first started. And I was like, I vaguely think I know who this person is, but why is this so important? Because she's dealing with Ray J? I'm saying, who the hell is Ray J? Yeah, I mean, I don't want one wish on this one. So what's the big deal? I don't understand. And so, but if you now know that there was a media push behind this, I think we also covered a topic back in the day where Ray J was basically saying like how the mother was trying to, she coordinated this. They actually recorded 2 different tapes. And so we saw the one that made the cut. So this was all a part of her mom selling her daughter out so she can, get on and get her career popping. And it worked. And so, yeah, so we got a lot of Kardashian clones running amok, and they wouldn't be going about if that tape didn't happen. I'm pretty sure they would have tried another publicity stunt with another celebrity later, but this one, the one that hit. And I was looking at tapes, publicity tapes, just a list of some, and there was quite a bit going on in the 2000s, man. But I don't know if you remember the one with what's that woman name? Paris Hilton had one. She had one in 2004.
That was the one that was the biggest one, I think, before the Kardashian one.
That one.
Yeah.
That happened in 2004.
Yeah.
And then but super throwback, Pamela Anderson, that happened in 95.
Yeah. I remember that one too. Yeah.
And even when that happened, I was a young person. I was 10. And then when all this stuff I'm being exposed to this stuff, and I'm like, yo, why is this on network TV? Like, it's kind of inappropriate to talk about on network television. But here I am, a 10-year-old being exposed to this, and other people were. So it's kind of a situation, man, where it became a part of celebrity culture to get on. It was a good publicity stunt in those days. And so yeah, she used it to her advantage. So I agree with Scooty Bikes. I think that yeah, man, it had a big effect. Now, is it as big as it is in his mind? Maybe, but I would just say that it's probably a tier below that, but still a great effect.
It made a hell of a lot of money, man. I remember one of the, like it was sold to one of those larger adult film companies for like millions of dollars or whatever the case is. So there was a lot going on with this thing. It was more than just some innocent little tape that got out.
Correct.
But in terms of its greater impact on like the world, it can't be ignored, in my opinion. We lament the current sexual marketplace on this channel pretty often, and some people think we're blowing it out of proportion. Personally, I don't. If we were blowing stuff like this out of proportion, then there wouldn't have been the need for people like Kevin Samuels to exist, or there wouldn't have been all of these other dating and relationship podcasts that are proliferating all over the internet. If we're blowing this stuff out of proportion and it's not really a big deal, then none of these content creators would exist, and there would be no need for them. There'd be no market for them, because dating and relationship would still make sense and it would still be sensible. But what we know for a fact is that in many ways, not entirely, I'm not dealing in absolutes, but in many ways, a lot of it does not make sense. And a lot of it has gone off the rails, and a lot of it has jumped the shark. And I think you can sort of I personally chart a lot of that back to the creation of Instagram. Personally, that's my opinion. But if you want to go back even further, Instagram became what it became because it was able to latch on to people like Kim Kardashian, who developed such a sizable following due to stuff like the TV ship, due to stuff like her TV show, which was preceded and made popular by that tape. And so you brought up celebrity culture. And one thing about celebrity culture, particularly in this country, celebrity hero worship is so pervasive in the West. Once something becomes ingrained as pop culture or something to talk about in terms of pop culture, you know that it has become completely normalized. And when something is normalized, there's no need to feel shame or embarrassment or be disconcerted by it in any kind of way, because it's just here and it's normal. It's like smoking weed. Smoking weed used to be something that's kind of frowned upon, but ever since, now obviously it's more deregulated now. We're seeing it legal in other places. But even before it got to that point, it was everywhere in music and movies, and people talked about it casually as if it's no big deal, despite what the law suggests. So once it reaches the pop culture zeitgeist in that way, it's not really a big deal. It sort of takes the air out of the bubble in terms of people looking at it as a weird thing that people shouldn't really do publicly like that, even though we all know everyone does it on a hush hush. This kind of stuff is the same way. These sex workers, this Instagram model stuff, these chicks doing OnlyFans, to me, it's the same trickle down type effect. And if you want to chart it back to that tape, I don't think it's beyond the pale to make that connection, because it did contribute to how a lot of that stuff becomes normalized. So again, I think he has a point. Whether it's solely responsible or not, I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely played a role. And if you think it's not a big deal, then fine. You can think that it's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, you got all of these people on the internet trying to coach men on how to navigate relationships effectively. If it weren't for Kim Kardashian and these types of tapes and other people like her and her cohort, there would be less madness going on when it comes to that kind of stuff. You'd have less of these weirdo standards and people leveraging their physical attractiveness to get whatever they want, despite everybody telling us that it's not about that, and it's all about merit and quality and values and holisticness. But we clearly know that that's not the case if you spend enough time on the internet. So it hasn't completely gone utterly to crap yet, but it's on its way. And I think a lot of these things serve as a catalyst for it.
Yeah, 1,000, man. And last thing I'll say is it also, that tape, when it was coming out and these celebrities doing it, it was also this thing, like you mentioned, as far as like normalizing it, because there was really no shame in it. There was no shame in having your, vagina plaster, for the world to see, and, watching that person getting penetrated, like, real intimate, private moments of somebody that's supposed to be well known. That's supposed to be something that's tucked away. But this was something that she was low key proud of. They were proud of, and it kind of helped shift the mentality of people at that time that was watching that, because we were still in a taboo era back then. And this kind of opened the door for normalizing, because we saw her back outside the next day, basically like nothing happened. And that kind of way of not having a shame about it, and, basically flaunting her body after that. She was just doubling, tripling down. And that kind of helped the normalization of it as well. So as well as like, Amber Rose with her slut walks and stuff, just making it seem as though I have no shame about this tabooish type of situation. So I don't feel like people should be ashamed of who they are sexually, and they should be comfortable with their body and all that other good stuff. Like, I'm not here in the business of shaming, but at the same time, posting stuff like that for the world to see, for anybody to see on the internet, where all age groups can get access to it, it could have its ramifications. And I think that this did. So, you can't really quantify it, but I've seen enough to know that this woman's influence on the world was a little too much for me. And she didn't get her rise in popularity until this moment. So, yeah, interesting stuff. When they do they look back in pop culture history, Kim Kardashian name will pop up somehow, some way, because she had a mark on the last decade. And so, and then at some point they're going to go down the line, and then he's going to be there. They're going to talk about that tape. So he's a part of history, whether we like it or not. So, he's got a point there.
Yeah, he does. He does. And I mean, like, at the end of the day, let's just be honest about it. She's been celebrated for this. Like, I don't really see any way that this has cost her. She's become an international global superstar. All she's done is become a multi-millionaire in the aftermath of it. And so that's the aspect of it that seeps into everyone's like consciousness, is this is the reward this is what I get for making a sex tape. This is what I get for doing that kind of content. That's what I get. Fortune, fame, and unlimited access to whatever I want. And everybody celebrates me and every fiber of my being. Why should I turn away from that? And so that's the normalization of it that I'm speaking of. Like, it kind of seeps into it, and it's like, it's no big deal. It is what it is. Onlyfans, let's do it. Everybody's doing it.
Hey, but let us know down in the comment section, guys. What do you guys think? You guys think Ray J's got a point? You agree with his galaxy brain theory that, hey, man, it's even changing the kind of clothes you wearing? I'll tell you one thing right now. I wouldn't be asking you this question if you ain't never do that. I got you. Let us know in the comment section.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. But I wonder, would there be a Brittany Renner and a Brittany Renner book if there was no Kim K tape? Not saying that there wouldn't be. It's just something to think about.
Might be. Well, there was a Superhead, so there still might be a Brittany Renner.
Maybe, but Superhead was around before Kim K. Kim K made it mainstream, is my point. So Superhead wasn't mainstream. The rappers knew about Superhead. I don't know if Superhead was mainstream like Kardashian was.
Superhead. Shout out to Superhead.
Well, the rappers and Eddie Winslow, they knew about Superhead.
Yo, Eddie Winslow, bro. Hey, tighten up, Eddie. I don't know what you got going on, bro. You out of pocket right now.